Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the peak-to-peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Working on a Building, and it is by Salomé Songbird from their recording session last year at Stone Cottage Studios. You can check out 4 songs that they performed for Stone Cottage Studios: It's Alright, Toxic Positivity, Rain, and Working on a Building at the Stone Cottage Studios YouTube channel. And for more information about the band, you can head to their Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or website at salomesongbird.com. They will be performing live at the Jamestown Mercantile very soon. More details later in the podcast.
I've been working on a building in the darkness, lit only by the moon. Well, I tried to work by sunlight, but I can't help it. I don't like when I can't hide from the woods.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to this week's Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. I am incredibly excited for today's interview. I have been looking forward to airing this particular interview for 3 months now. I actually originally conducted this interview on May 29th, 2024, and I am very excited that it is finally time to put it out there. I am particularly proud of this week's Music of the Mountains column featuring our 3 guests this week, and I am very happy with how this interview turned out. So please, I encourage you, check out this week's Music of the Mountains column and stick around to learn more about a really awesome local band. I don't think I have much more to add, so let's just get right into it. Our musical guests this week. Do you mind introducing yourselves real quick?
Sure, I'll go first. My name is Brian Dubrow. I play guitar.
My name is Ariele Macadangdang, and I play violin and sing in the band.
And I'm Joy Adams, and I play cello and banjo and mandolin and sing.
Unfortunately, I mixed up the venues in my head when I was interviewing the band and thought I remembered that they were performing soon at the Gold Hill Inn.
Well, we performed there last year. We performed recently at the Salina Schoolhouse, which is just down the road from Gold Hill Inn, and then in September, we'll be at the Jamestown Merc. We do love the Gold Hill Inn.
So to clarify, the reason that all 4 of us are now here for this interview is because of that Jamestown Mercantile show. That's the show that we're promoting. But anyway, moving on to the 3 of you guys and your band name. A lot of people are probably looking at the band name right now and wondering how to pronounce it. In fact, I still have trouble pronouncing it. I referenced the band in the previous episode of the podcast and had to re-record it a couple of times because I completely forgot how to pronounce it. So, can you guys just tell us how you pronounce your band name real quick?
Sure, the band name is Salomé Songbird, and the name Salome is like an old biblical name, but it was really popular like in the 1800s, and I was supposed to be named Salome as a baby, and my dad intervened and was like, oh, the kids are going to call her Salami, so they named me Joy instead. But when we first started the band, it was a duo, and we kind of joked around that I was Salome and Ariele was the Songbird, so we put it together and made Salomé Songbird.
Going off of that initial synthesis of the duo that has now become a trio, how did Salomé Songbird begin in the first place?
Yeah, Joy and I both were writing songs. We kind of overlapped in grad school in Miami, and I needed someone to join me at a cafe to do a little set. And I was like, oh, who plays songs and is a string player? Joy Adams. And we were already in a classical quartet together, playing pretty frequently with that ensemble. So we kind of just did a little offshoot from that ensemble and prepared a mini set together. And we actually came up with the name, I think, the first time we rehearsed together. And I wasn't expecting the project to be revived, but we did take, after that stint, we took like a 7-year hiatus from the band, and Joy had just moved out to Colorado, tried to do some long distance things, but that's difficult. It's hard to do that. And then Brian and I got married during that time, and the whole time Joy was trying to convince us to move to Colorado. She tried really hard. She was relentless for 7 years. And we just moved out here a couple of years ago now, and we're able to revive this project and add Brian.
In case you're curious, the string quartet that Ariele and Joy were both involved in together at the University of Miami was called The Wild. I couldn't find any trace of that group online. I had to ask Brian after the fact what the name of the quartet was. If you can find them, I would love to hear from them, but I personally couldn't. So Brian, being the newest member of the group, can you clarify how long you've been in the group again?
Well, I guess since we kind of brought it back when we moved out here, that was about 2 years ago. So yeah, about 2 years.
Although there was a period of time where Ariele and Brian had a duo of their own called American Darling Valve, and they played a lot of the songs that we had been playing. So I'll say that when we all came together again in Colorado, it was quite easy. Brian knew most of the songs already. The arrangements had changed a little bit, but it was really fun to just put it back together in this new trio format. And we actually did that up in the Peak to Peak region, because that's where I live. I live just past Rollinsville. And yeah, we just had a week where we all had COVID. Or actually, you guys didn't get COVID, but you were exposed to it. And so we were all quarantining together and had this, I guess it was like 10 full days. And we just sat on my porch in the springtime, or maybe it was July or something. I don't know. It was nice weather, and we just sat on the porch, played these songs to death. Yeah, it was really good to get the band back together.
Yeah, that was right as we were moving. So we weren't actually living anywhere yet. We were staying with Joy. And then, yeah, Joy got COVID, and we're like, well, we don't really have anywhere to go. So, well, I guess we'll see if we get it.
Since you guys have performed in multiple different groups and multiple different combinations over the years, what has it been like playing as the three of you in one group and cementing your sound?
It feels really easy a lot of the time to come together, all three of us, and it's extremely fulfilling. And we get together, and if we have a new song that we're working on and want to arrange it, it's just, for me, and I think Joy will agree with this, it feels like classical chamber music, even though it doesn't really fit that category. Just the way we arrange things and are kind of mixing, quote unquote, on the spot together.
Yeah.
You guys have anything to add?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, having played, like you said, we've all played together in various iterations for the last close to a decade now. And so we all understand each other's musicianship really deeply. So I feel like it's so easy to come in and make music with these two, because I can kind of predict what they're going to do and what they're going to want to do and work with that. It's a real treat to play with people of such high caliber.
Yeah, and I feel like the colors and the different sounds that we're able to get with the three of us, it feels like it's kind of an exponential growth from any of the duos to like all the different sounds that we can add, you know, and we all sing and we all are all playing an instrument and switch instruments to get different sounds. So it's really fun to see what a song can turn into with that.
So it sounds like you guys primarily perform the originals that you've written over the years. But do you throw in covers sometimes?
Yeah, we love the cartoon Adventure Time and the sister cartoons, Steven Universe, and we love to cover a couple cartoon songs from both of those series. We also do some traditional bluegrass songs, just because that's Colorado. But I love it. So, yeah, what other covers have we done? We do like a David Grisman cover, and...
Yeah, we have some sort of out of left field instrumental things where, I mean, the David Grisman, or it's a Artie Trom tune, but it's on that first David Grisman Quintet album. It has a lot of the music on that album. It's kind of its own thing. And then we have this arrangement that I did a long time ago of this jazz standard that I kind of twisted around in a bunch of ways. So it's been really fun to do instrumentals like that are a little outside of the fiddle tune arena, but those are also very fun.
But I do think most of the sets are original, the majority.
I just wanted to clarify this in case it was hard to hear. The second cartoon that Joy ended up bringing up was the sister cartoon for Adventure Time, which also aired on Cartoon Network, Steven Universe. I would have mentioned the cartoon in the original article that I wrote along with Adventure Time, but I didn't realize she talked about Steven Universe because of how muffled it sounded in the final recording. So I just wanted to clarify in case you guys couldn't hear that name. Is there a particular style that you guys have focused on over the last 2 years?
Oh, I think it's a big blend. I usually tell people it's a mix of the fiddle genres with jazz and classical meeting some weird indie thing. I don't know. We call it, it doesn't really fit into a genre, so we like to call it skating lullabies, because that's about as close as we can get. We've had a lot of people compare us to Nickel Creek, if you remember that band. Yeah, just kind of folk-based, but with some pop sensibility. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's closest to coming out of that, folk acoustic music, lump that like all bluegrass, old-time world, but it doesn't really sound like much of that. There's just so much other stuff.
We all have different, like our training and musical backgrounds are all really different. I mean, there's the overlap of folk, and then Brian has like some jazz training, and then Joy and I have like classical, and Joy has a lot of experience with the folk and roots music and bluegrass. And Brian also plays a lot of bluegrass. But yeah, it all comes together somehow.
And I think for me, speaking for myself, that's probably the most enjoyable part is that when the three of us get together, we can play this music that I just can't imagine working or happening with any other group of people.
And I should have asked this earlier. In regards to all three of you, what are your individual musical backgrounds that brought you to Salomé Songbird today?
I'll go first. I, like many 90s, early 2000s kids, I wanted to play like Green Day songs, rock songs. So I played a lot of electric guitar growing up, and along the way got into jazz. That was a very big influence and just music that I was involved in for a long time, and I still am. And then got very deep into like, bluegrass, that world. But yeah, just like the guitar as an instrument is kind of the through line, seeing where what that instrument does and all different styles of music has been really cool for me, exciting thing.
This is Joy speaking. I grew up with everybody in my family played music. My mom's a classical violinist, and so we all kind of played music because we didn't really have a choice in the matter. So my background's all classical, although we played a lot of folk music around the house, specifically German folk music. My mom's from Germany. And then I feel like that kind of kept my ears open to improvising, which is lucky. And then I went to classical music school for a decade, which is where I met Ariele and Brian. And somewhere in there I fell into the fiddle world, got sucked into old-time Southern Appalachian music, which of course is like the forefather of bluegrass, so bluegrass comes along with it too. And yeah, that's kind of how I wound up in Colorado, met a fiddle player at a fiddle camp I fell in love with, and wound up out here.
This is Ariele speaking now. I learned some piano from my older sister around the age of 5 or 6, something around there. And then my parents enrolled me in some lessons for piano after that. And then I think my mom was just like, hey, do you want to play violin too? And I started that instrument around 9 years old. There's some point in there, I forget when, I started playing flute for like 2 years. But at that point, it was too many lessons, and my parents were like, you need to choose one instrument now. And so I chose the violin. I ended up going to music school as well, mostly focused on classical, Western classical music that whole time. But I definitely had inklings of interest in other genres. I experienced a lot of frustration actually because of that, because I didn't know who to talk to or how to get into other styles throughout those years. But I did start improvising and playing by ear, mostly at a church I attended at the time, and that snowballed into trying a lot of things. After meeting Joy, I started getting into old time because she and her husband run this retreat out here in Colorado, and I attended that. I remember going to a jazz string summer camp workshop thing that really, really opened my world to string players like me who were trying to like do something outside of the classical training that they had and just didn't really know how to get there. So I met a bunch of people there, and I feel like that's just been snowballing ever since. Now I'm taking some jazz lessons with another string player and playing with these guys, and I feel like that trajectory has been the best that I could ever hope for.
I personally think it's really cool that all three of these band members have their own musical and life partners. Of course, Ariele and Brian are married to each other. They married in January of 2021, but Joy also has her own life and musical partner. And that musical and life partner is Andy Reiner, who she has actually performed with in the duo Half Pelican. I mentioned in the last podcast that she would be back as a guest for this particular podcast because last time I featured an interview from Half Pelican on the retrospective podcast. If you want to learn more about Andy Reiner and Joy Adams as a duo in Half Pelican, then please be sure to check out the previous episode of the podcast. If you want to learn more about Andy Reiner, then go to his website, andyreiner.com. And if you want to hear all four life partners perform in one song together, Andy, Joy, Ariele, and Brian, then be sure to check out the song Waltz for Eric and Autumn Rose wherever you get your music. What has the writing process been like for you three, both individually and combining your writing experience to create a specific sound together?
It's been kind of weird. I don't know. Like I said earlier, we can't really fit this music into any genre, which is liberating and really frustrating sometimes too. Because if I said I was going to write a country song, there's like 1,000 songs for me to model my song on. So I could be like, oh, I'm going to write it with this vibe from this Loretta Lynn song or whatever. And there's just such a clear, distinctive style, and it almost makes it easy to write a song if have such a clear-cut idea of the genre. And so to come at this without any shackles from any particular genres placed on us, we kind of have this like crazy free-for-all, which is amazing, but it also is like, oh, sometimes you bring a song in, you have an idea of what it is, and then by the time it goes through the Salomé Songbird factory, it's something totally different, and it's really wonderful. It's wonderful, but I never really know what's going to happen. I know it's going to be cool, but I can always depend on Ariele and Brian to do something really cool with it. Yeah, I don't know what you guys say.
Yeah, I mean, there is a sense of kind of like reaching across I don't even know what metaphor I'd use, but it's like different dialects of the same language, and we're all trying to make sense of, or just say something together in those different dialects. And that makes it, I agree, both frustrating and also it's just so satisfying when it works and everyone's open-minded and we experiment with different ideas. We try pretty much all the ideas that come up. Rarely do we ever shoot an idea down as a group. We just try it, and if it doesn't work, then we know for sure that doesn't work. And that's kind of how we've landed on a lot of our arrangements.
Yeah, the arrangement process for me feels like a lot of trial and error and just seeing, just kind of like, and just a gut feeling of, does that sound right? Does that sound like us? Versus, it's outside of this kind of like, that's cool, but does that really sound like a country song, or does that really sound like a pop song? It's like, does that sound like a Salomé Songbird song? And we don't really know what that is. It's just a feeling, I guess.
I will say there is a thread of commonality between everything, which is that the topics of the songs are very honest for each of us, whether those songs are about anxiety or depression or suicide or racism or just the numerous things we're staring at in this world that we live in right now. And at the end of the day, we're only just trying to say honest things, hoping that when people hear them, they feel less alone.
Mm-hmm. And over the years, is there anything that has stuck out to you about the writing process in regards to favorite parts?
I like the end.
I like the end product too.
Yeah, I'm not I don't bring in songs. That's really Joy and Ariele. And we all collaborate on arranging. So I love the arranging and I love hearing the songs that they bring in and then getting to see what we can do with them. And then, I kind of have to say a good job of skipping the songs.
The arranging part is so fun. It's like being in a playground.
Yeah, I love seeing how the song evolves. We'll sat down for an hour or so with one of my songs recently, and there were so many iterations of it that we were like, we need to record this so we don't forget the next time we play it.
That's the song that the original duo Salomé Songbird did, and then Ariele and I as American Darling Bells did it, and it was a slightly different version. And then recently we brought it back with the three of us, and it sounds
way different.
completely different than either of those.
Do you guys prefer performing together or solo? And what are the pros and cons potentially of both?
I always prefer performing in a group. I have a ton of solo music. I could probably do that if I really wanted it. But I feel like I am an introverted person, and I rely so much on the energy of the people around me when I am lacking energy myself. So it's just nice to, like, if you're going to stand up in front of people, to have these really close friends you can lean on the stage, both energetically and musically. And especially in this band, it's only three of us, but I feel like the sound that comes out is so much bigger than three. So it's really a fun group. I play in a bunch of different bands with varying numbers and varying genres, but this one is just like hits all the right spots for me. So fun.
Yeah, I'm similar to Joy in that I very rarely perform solo, and maybe for a wedding here and there, solo violin, I'll do that. But I also want and need the energy of other people to create something that I can be really proud of, and I definitely feel that with this project.
Yeah, playing with other people is super important to me. I do play solo on occasion. As I alluded to earlier, I really don't write songs, but I'll play like solo guitar, solo jazz guitar or things, or I can get up and sing you some songs, but nothing is as satisfying to me as making music with other people.
I ended up looking through the website during the interview and discovering some interesting things. Their tagline on the website is Scathing Lullabies from Colorado. As they mentioned, they like to call their music Scathing Lullabies, but there's also a list of some awesome people that they've performed with over the years. Here's the end of a bio paragraph that's on the homepage of their website. All accomplished musicians in their own right, the band members have performed around the world, sharing the stage with artists including Daryl Anger, Nathaniel Rateliff, the Flowbots, Kygo, Ben Folds, and Dave Liebman. Those are a lot of awesome names. Do you guys want to talk about how you got involved in performing with those musicians?
I'll get mine out of the way really quick. Really just the Dave Liebman one, and that was in school and ensemble I was in, played a concert with them, and that was very cool. So yeah, the rest of those names are not mine.
Yeah, we all used to live in Miami. I feel like personally, a lot of those connections for me came from being in Miami and going to school there.
Yeah.
So the Ben Folds thing, I think Joy and I were both in that orchestra when he came to our university to perform. So we both were on stage with him, and they pulled other big name artists in to play with that orchestra. It's called Henry Mancini Orchestra Institute. So we were both fellows there.
Played with crazy people all the time. And it was like one of those ensembles where you learn all the music at the last minute. And they're very likely to change all the music on stage. It was stressful.
It was good training for the real world.
So that was real. They trained us for the real world with the real world.
With the real world. Right. It was terrifying, and I felt like I learned a lot. Kygo Singh, a friend of mine was booking strings for him because he would have a quartet come up for the finale on some of his sets. So I was able to play with him in Miami for that Ultra Music Festival and things, and his own festival that he runs, the Palm Tree Music Festival. So I knew the person who was in charge of hiring strings, and then the Flowbots violinist, who's awesome. She needed a sub last year, so she asked me to cover for her, and it was such a blast to play with them.
Yeah, and then probably the other names are from my little story there. I kind of accidentally wound up in Daryl Anger's band for 2 years. That's a longer story. He's an amazing musician. I learned so much from him. Continue to learn so much from him. And then I toured a couple times with Nathaniel Rateliff. When he does his solo record, he replaces the horn section in his band with a string quartet. So I get to play that gig when it comes around. And he is just a lovely human being. It's always a real treat and pleasure to work with him.
I also wanted to mention that even though Brian said that he only performed with Dave Liebman in a school ensemble, he told me later that he's also opened for the John Stickley Trio. There are a ton of other people that Joy and Ariele have performed with over the years, and I might mention them later, but I'll definitely point you to where you can learn more about who they've played with. And through all of the time that you've spent on stage, performing together, as individuals, with other musicians, what have been some awesome aspects of being able to perform live and sharing music like this with an audience?
Well, with this band in particular, since our music has such a heavy emotional content to it, the concerts are so raw, at least from my perspective, they're so raw and so they get so deep emotionally. And it's been amazing to meet people after the show, get touched and have some kind of story to share about what the music has meant to them or done for them in that little span of time. So it's crazy to meet a stranger and have some really deep conversation with them just because we're pushing for that. We're trying to get to this deep emotional state with people. I think that we live in a day and age where people gloss over their emotions and try to put on a brave face all the time, and it's actually unhealthy. I think that if we admit to our feelings, it's healthier for everybody long run. So we're trying to stage that for people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd say that's, at least for me, that's kind of the ethos of the band is like, we have all these arrangements and we can talk about the music all day, but when it comes to playing the show, it's trying to get a bunch of people in a room and be like, it's okay to feel all of these feelings, even in this room full of maybe a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
We can all feel those together, and we should.
And I think I've had a lot of incredible, lucky performances I've been lucky to be a part of, but some of the most memorable ones are really with this band.
Yeah, I have to say, I always just feel lighter after we perform. Or, I don't know, maybe lighter is not the word. I just feel better, I think, because I'm more free and just I've expressed something and just been vulnerable, even if I didn't feel like being vulnerable that day. And it's cool to share that with an audience that's receptive.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing to be in a band that has the goal of doing shows like that, because you don't always feel like going there every day, but sometimes that's when the show is, so do it. And then usually, I'd say like 9 times out of 10 or more for me, even if I wasn't like ideally wanting to go there that day, after the show, I'm very glad that I did.
And is there anything that you hope audience members will be able to take away from Salomé Songbird shows in particular when they come to see the group?
Yeah, I would just echo what Joy said about hoping people feel less alone when we just sang a bunch of honest songs. Yeah, I hope people are more aware, and if they've really listened to what we have to say through these songs, I hope that they take that, and I hope they feel lighter afterwards.
Yeah, and more connected to themselves in their feelings and to a room full of strangers, hopefully. We're all human beings are always looking for connections, like how we survive, and it's hard to find these days.
Yeah,
I don't really have anything to add. I don't agree with both of those statements.
We're all nodding as if you can see us. Yeah, I'm trying to nod vocally.
We've talked a lot about your musicianship over the years, both as individuals and as a group. But just in case I've missed anything, is there anything else in general that you would like to add or promote?
Well, I guess I'm not sure when this will come out, but there's that Jamestown merch show that if people see or hear this, then that's coming up. We'd love to see you there. And then we have as you mentioned earlier, there's a website. If you go on there, you can find other shows and things that we'll be doing either before or after that.
Oh, we just announced we're going to open for Caleb Cottle down at the Roots Music Project in Boulder. He's a really great songwriter. I think that's in September. Yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff on the calendar. If people want to jump on the old website, check it out.
Yeah, and at some point, we'll be able to tell people to go check us out on streaming services. We've been talking about getting in and recording some music, but currently you can find songs and live videos and other recordings online on YouTube. We're proud of those. We could talk about this stuff a lot, but we do have to run to a show.
Yes, that's right. Initially, when we conducted this interview, the group had to go to a show after the interview. So we had initially only scheduled this for about half an hour. We ended up going overtime, but the band was nice enough to indulge me with one more quick question. Joy, I found online on the Salomé Songbird website that you're a doctor?
Yeah.
Joy is a doctor.
I have a doctorate in cello, which I've checked it's the most useless one that you can have. I can help you with nothing except for cello-related things. He's very good at it, though. Yeah, I met Ariele while I was working on that down at the University of Miami. And Brian. We all met at college together.
Yeah, I'm the least educated.
Brian knows more about chords than I do.
For the record, Brian may have been self-deprecating in this instance, but he did still graduate with a bachelor's from the University of Miami. Specifically, he received his bachelor's in jazz performance from the University of Miami's Frost School of Music. Ariele studied violin performance at both Western Michigan University and at the University of Miami, and she's also a former graduate teaching assistant at University of Miami. She was a former Mancini Institute Fellow, and she formerly taught at Miami Music Project. Joy was also a Mancini Fellow at the University of Miami and also studied at Eastman School of Music. At this point, though, that was basically all the questions that I had, and of course they had to get to a show, so I let them go. In case you're curious, this. The particular gig that the band ended up performing at on this particular day, May 29th, 2024, was for FarmFest Music Evenings at the Sunflower Farm in Longmont. They were the first group to perform for the FarmFest this year, in fact. Thank you so much to Brian and Ariele for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. And thank you to Joy for coming on board and joining us once again. Like I said, I interviewed her and her husband, Andy Reiner, previously for their duo, Half Pelican. You can check out the previous episode of the podcast to hear their interview, and also check out the physical column of Half Pelican. That column is mentioned in the previous episode, so go there for all the awesome details. Before we move on to our music mentions, I wanted to mention where you could check out the individual efforts as well as the collaborative efforts of all of the musicians we interviewed today. As I mentioned in the previous episode, Dr. Joy Adams is currently the cello player for the band Big Richard, which you can learn more about by going to bigrichardband.com. She's played in Half Pelican, which you can learn more about by going to halfpelican.squarespace.com. She's performed multiple times with her husband Andy in the music festival Fiddle Hell, which you can check out on YouTube. And you can check her out on YouTube and Instagram at Voyage by Cello, and on Facebook as Joy Adams. Meanwhile, Ariele has performed with plenty of other musical groups. As I mentioned, she and Joy were part of the Wild during their time at the University of Miami. She also played with Brian for the Subtropical String Quartet, with Ariele being a primary member and Brian serving as a guest with his guitar. And I might as well list some of the awesome musicians that Ariele has performed with on stage. Ben Folds, Gloria Estefan, Terrence Blanchard, Maria Schneider, and James Newton Howard. You can learn more about all of the awesome individual music efforts that she's done over the years, including her collaborations with Brian under the name American Darling Valve, on her website Ariele Macadangdang, that's ArieleMacadangdang.com, where you can check out awesome music that she has been a part of, watch videos of her on stage, and learn more about her as a musician. You can also check her out on Facebook as Ariele Grace Macadangdang, and on Instagram as Ariele Grace Violin. She does have a YouTube channel, but it doesn't currently have any videos on it. But there are plenty of performances of hers that you can check out throughout YouTube. Brian has played on many a stage and on many a song over the years, so if you want to learn more about some of the collaborative efforts that Brian has been involved with over the years, then be sure to check out his personal website at BryanDubrow.com. Also be sure to check him out on Facebook as Brian Dubrow, Instagram as Brian Dubrow, and YouTube at Guitar Dubrow. And finally, even though Brian and Ariele are currently focusing on Salomé Songbird primarily, you can check out American Darling Valve wherever you get your music. And finally, of course, there's Salomé Songbird. If you want to learn more about the group as a whole, then you can head to their website at Salomé Songbird, that's SALOME-SONGBIRD.com. Usually their band name is spelled with an accent. Usually the name itself is not. However, of course, there is no accent in the E for the URL of the website itself. You can check out Salomé Songbird on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. And if you want to hear some original songs from the band, then be sure to check out their artist sessions as part of Stone Cottage Studios. And of course, if you want to hear the band performing live, then be sure to check them out at the Jamestown Mercantile, located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown, on Thursday, September 5th, 2024, starting at 7 p.m. And now, for this week's music mentions. Head to Busey Brews, located at 70 East 1st Street in Netherland on Friday, September 6th at 4 p.m. to see Windy Pines performing live, and be sure to check out the previous episode of the podcast to hear all four of them in an interview, and be sure to head there on Sunday, September 8th at 2 p.m. to see John Pickett performing live. The first Saturday Gilpin County Farmers Market is happening once again at the Gilpin Community Center at 250 Norton Drive, so be sure to head there starting at 10 a.m. for some local vendors and live music. I don't know which bands are performing there, I cannot find information about that anywhere, but live music will most certainly be there. Head to the Gold Hill Inn, located at 401 Main Street in Gold Hill on Monday, September 2nd, starting at noon for the Labor Day Cajun Cookout and Concert 2024, featuring bands such as Dunk Maxwell and the D-Funk, New Family Dog, and the Vipers. The menu includes pan-fried catfish and jambalaya with all the fixins, $20 cash at the door for music, $20 more for food. Please no dogs, outside food, or alcohol, and please park responsibly in town. Also be sure to head there on Wednesday, September 4th, starting at 5:30 p.m. to see Alamo Russ performing live. That's a podcast exclusive announcement, by the way. On Friday, September 6th, starting at 8 p.m. to see Rob Pate and DeLovely's performing live. On Saturday, September 7th at 5:30 p.m. to see Cup of Joe, the Joe Oser Duo performing live. And on Sunday, September 8th, starting at 6 p.m. to see the Martin Gilmore Duo performing live. I mentioned last week that 100 Pound House Cat would be performing on Saturday, August 31st at the Gold Hill store located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill starting at 6 p.m. with a special guest. Well, since the last time I made that announcement, they've announced who that special guest is. And that special guest is Dwayne Hagens. He's coming back to Colorado to perform with 100 Pound House Cat. This is definitely a show you are not going to want to miss. Head to Howlin' Wind Brewing, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville on Saturday, September 7th at 5 p.m. to see the Kind Mountain Band performing live. Head to the Jamestown Mercantile, located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown on Wednesday, September 4th at 5 p.m. for an open mic night. On Thursday, September 5th at 7 p.m. to see Salomé Songbird performing live. And on Sunday, September 8th at 12:15 p.m. to see John Statz performing live. Head to JKQ Barbecue, located at 200 Gregory Street in Blackhawk on Friday, September 6th at 6 p.m. and on Saturday, September 7th at 5 p.m. to see Dewey Weibel, simply known as Dewey, performing live. Head to Knotted Root Brewing, located at 250 North Caribou Street in Nederland on Saturday, September 7th at 5 p.m. to see Tyler Stuckey performing live. Also be sure to head there Fridays at 7 p.m. for a DJ night, every second Friday at 7:30 p.m. for a reggae DJ night, and on Sundays at 5 p.m. for Jazz Sundays. Head to the Old Gallery at Allens Park, located at 14863 Highway 7 in Allens Park on Friday, September 6th, starting at 6 p.m. to see Chain Station performing live. The Caribou Room is finally back open for the last quarter of 2024, so be sure to head there on Saturday, September 7th, 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Nederland, to see the Caribou Kickoff Season Opening Party with Smooth Money Gesture and River Spell with Bear Hat. Doors open at 7 p.m. and the show starts at 8 p.m. And finally, be sure to check out both Very Nice Brewing locations for some awesome live music. If you want to go to Gilpin County, then head to 180 Jankowski Drive in Black Hawk on Friday, September 6th, starting at 6 p.m. to see Derek Damesole performing live, or head there on Saturday, September 7th, starting at 5 p.m. to see the Lofty Pines performing live. If you would prefer to head to Nederland, then be sure to head to 20 East Lakeview Drive, number 112, that's in the Caribou Village Shopping Center, on Friday, September 6th at 6 p.m. to see Aaron Mitchell performing live, or on Saturday, September 7th at 5 p.m. to see One Drum performing live. I also briefly wanted to shout out an event that I did not know was happening until it was already too late to promote it on the podcast, and that was the No Animal Left Behind launch party at 317 Gregory Street in Black Hawk on August 25th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., where Coyote Circle provided live music. We hope that the event went well. Did we miss you or your performance? Want to submit your music listing in the Peach Peak area? Do you have updates to your business or to your performances? Please call 303-810-5409 or email info@themountaineer.com or media@themountaineer.com to be included in the next print edition or the next podcast of The Mountain Ear. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in to this very exciting episode of Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. Be sure to head to the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com or the mtnear.com/the-mountain-ear-podcast to share this episode and others around with whoever you see fit. And if you want to be involved in this podcast in any way, whether you want to be interviewed or you have advertising that you'd like to promote, then be sure to email me at media@themountaineer.com and we will get that sorted for you. I am incredibly excited for this upcoming Miscellaneous Monday episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. So be sure to tune in then, and I will see you then.
If I could fly away from here, I'd be alright. I hear it call from down the road. If I'd only go one more.
The song that you are currently listening to is called It's All Right, and it is by Salomé Songbird, and this version was recorded at Stone Cottage Studios. You can listen to the full session at Stone Cottage Studios on their YouTube channel, which includes this song, as well as Toxic Positivity, Rain, and Working on a Building. To learn more about the band as a whole, you can check them out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or on their website at salomésongbird.com. And be sure to head to the Jamestown Mercantile on Thursday, September 5th, starting at 7 p.m. to see them performing live.
And I would be just fine as long as our time stood still. The sweetest sin to brush my skin was the tall grass growing by the side of the road.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local peak-to-peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.